In today's lesson, we will be solving real-world problems by writing equations and by writing inequalities. And we have a couple of standards here. The first is 6EE7. And then we also have 6EE8. So for our first situation, we're going to write some algebraic equations to solve real-world problems. Yesterday, Kyle had some stamps. Today, his father gave him 12 more stamps. Now he has 27 stamps altogether. How many stamps did Kyle have yesterday? So we don't know how many stamps Kyle had yesterday, so we're going to use a variable. So we're going to use S for stamps. You can use any variable you want, though. If you want to use X, N, Q, whatever you want is fine. Today, his father gave him 12 more stamps. Well, when his father gives him stamps, that means he's going to add to that. So we're going to add 12. And now he has 27 stamps all together, which means the stamps he had yesterday plus the 12 stamps his father gave him would equal 27. So to determine how many stamps Kyle had yesterday, we're going to subtract 12 from both sides, just like we did in our previous lessons. The 12s cancel out, so we're left with S equals 15 stamps. For our second example here, in a pond, there are 3 times as many koi as goldfish. If there are 48 koi, find the number of goldfish in the pond. Well, since we don't know the number of goldfish in the pond, we're going to use a variable. I'll use G for goldfish. And since it says there are 3 times as many koi as goldfish, we're going to take 3 times the number of goldfish, and there are 48 koi. So our equation would be 3G equals 48. To solve for G, I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And 48 divided by 3 is 16. So we would have 16 goldfish in the pond. On Monday, Wendy had some leaves in a collection she was making for biology class. After she collected 23 more leaves on Tuesday, she had 41 leaves. Find the number of leaves Wendy had on Monday. Well, since we don't know how many leaves she had on Monday, we'll use a variable. We'll use L for leaves. She collected 23 more, so that means she went out and got more, so we're going to add to that. And she had 41 leaves, and that's going to represent our total. So L plus 23 equals 41. So to solve for L, we'll subtract 23 from both sides, and L equals 18 leaves. Carlos thinks of a number, so we'll call it N. When he adds 17 to it, so we add 17, the result is 45. So our equation would be N plus 17 equals 45. To solve for N, we'll subtract 17 from both sides, so N would equal 28. Sylvia bought some blouses and t-shirts. She paid a total of $63. The t-shirts cost $29. How much did the blouses cost? Well, we don't know the cost of the blouses, so we'll use B for blouses. The t-shirts cost $29, so we're going to add that to the cost of our blouses, which would give us a total of $63. So we would subtract 29 from both sides, so B equals $34. Felicia used 153 yellow beads and some green beads for her art project. She used 9 times as many yellow beads as green beads. How many green beads did she use for the project? Well, since we don't know how many green beads she used, we're going to use our variable G. It says she used 9 times as many yellow beads as green beads. So we're going to multiply our number of green beads by 9, and that'll equal, excuse me, that would equal 153. So 9G equals 153. We're going to divide both sides by 9. So G equals 17 green beads. And finally, number 5. Ivan had saved some quarters. He spent 50 quarters, which was 2/5 of the quarters he started out with. How many quarters did he start out with? Well, we're going to say that he started out with Q quarters. And on this one, you might get tricked by the wording because it does say he spent 50 quarters, and that oftentimes leads you to think that you need to do some subtraction. But in this case, you want to go past that. And it says which was 2/5 of the quarters you started out with. Well, 2/5 of means we're going to multiply, and that 2/5 of is going to equal 50. To solve for Q, we can divide both sides by 2/5, or in some cases, many students would recognize that you end up multiplying by the reciprocal when we do this, so you could start by multiplying by the reciprocal if you so choose. But we keep the 50, maybe make it 50 over 1, change division and multiplication, use the reciprocal, do some simplifying here, and 25 times 5 is 125, so Q equals 125 quarters. Jamal sees the sign shown in a store window. Sale, all t-shirts cost less than $16. So we want to write an inequality, and that's an important word there because inequality means you're using greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So we want to write an inequality to represent the situation. Well, we don't know the cost of the t-shirts, but we know we're comparing them to 16, and it says the t-shirts cost less than $16. It then says to use a number line to represent the inequality. So I'll draw a line, I'll put a number on it, which in this case would be 16. Since it's less than, I use an empty circle, and I would go to the left. And then finally it says, then give the greatest possible cost of a t-shirt. Well, depending upon your interpretation of the question, it could lead you to 2 different answers, and both answers would be acceptable in this situation because you're not given any extra information. So one answer that I would accept is $15.99 because that is technically less than $16. But you might think that shirts are sold at dollar increments, so the other answer that I would accept is $15. So either of those would be acceptable answers in this situation. I'm going to scroll down a little bit for our next example here. A ski club is organizing a ski trip. At least 20 club members have to sign up for the trip to cover the cost of the bus. Write an inequality to represent the situation. Use a number line to represent the inequality. Well, we don't know how many members are going, so we use our variable of m. And since it says at least 20, we know we're going to compare it to 20. And when it says at least, that means we can have more or exactly. So we would want m is greater than or equal to 20. And use a number line to represent the inequality. So I'll draw my line. I'll put 20 on it. This time it's a shaded circle because we're using the equal to, and you would go to the right. The figure shows a speed limit sign on the highway. Let X represent the speed in miles per hour. Write an inequality to represent the situation. Well, X is our variable. We're comparing it to 55. And our speed limit tells us that's as fast as we can go. So you can go less than that or exactly 55. And part B, give the maximum legal driving speed on the highway, 55 miles per hour. More than 35 guests came to Katrina's birthday party last Sunday. Write an inequality to represent the number of guests who turned up for the party. So we don't know how many guests, we'll use G. We know we're comparing it to 35, and it says more than 35 guests. So G is greater than 35. And for part B, the least possible number of guests who could have come to the party would be 36 guests. In Mr. Boyle's class, the students are required to summarize a passage in less than 50 words. Write an inequality to represent the number of words that the students can use to summarize the passage. So we don't know how many words. We know we're comparing it to 50. And since it says less than 50 words, W is less than 50. And what is the maximum number of words that a student can use? 49 words. Since there's no such thing as a fraction or a decimal part of a word. And finally, a cargo elevator has a load limit of 240 tons. Write an inequality to represent the load limit of the cargo elevator. So we don't know what the load is. We know it's being compared to 240. And load limit would be similar to speed limit, where you could have less than that or exactly that. So L is less than or equal to 240. The greatest possible load is 240 tons. And finally, number 10, to get a discount coupon at a bookstore, you need to spend at least $50 at the store. Write an inequality to represent the amount of money that you must spend in order to get a discount coupon. So we don't know how much you're spending. We know it's being compared to 50. And since it says you need to spend at least $50, we had a similar situation earlier where it used the words at least. So you need to spend more than 50 or exactly 50. So S is greater than or equal to 50. And for part B, Andrea has spent $45 at the store. Her friend Alex has spent $55 at the store. Which person can get a discount coupon? Alex would get the discount because she spent more than $50. And there's today's lesson. As always, I hope this helps.